Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, SPC-205. Whatever time you're consuming this little artifact of academic media, I am once again Vic McInnes, your public speaking instructor, coming to you live on tape from the centrally located campus of Aiken Technical College here in the bustling metropolis of Graniteville, South Carolina. Remember, Aiken Technical College, your number one choice for higher education in Aiken County. Two topics today we're going to cover. First thing we're going to talk about is ceremonial speeches, which are coming up. And I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about a ceremonial speech so that you get a good grade. Later on, I'll be posting all the requirements for what you have to turn in and when. I'll be going over those during this, but we'll also make sure it gets posted in the announcements. Then we're going to talk about outlining your speeches. Okay, outlining is an incredibly important part of the speech process. Something you don't need to be avoided, because if you do avoid it, I will know about it. Okay? All right, but let's start talking about ceremonial speeches. There are lots of different types of ceremonial speeches. Funereal addresses, where you give someone's eulogy. There's awards presentations, where you will talk about why you're honoring a person with an award. What we're going to be doing in this class, we're not going to do all of it, but what we're going to be doing in this class is called a ceremonial introductory speech. You've seen these before. It's where you are in a group setting. Perhaps you probably saw them in a school assembly where the principal introduced a guest speaker. You may have been at a dinner. That happens at church all the time, where they talk to you about the person that's going to be coming up. Now, ceremonial speeches are a little bit different, because the speech in and of itself is not the center focus of the event, okay? Like a funereal address. The speech is not, the eulogy is not the central focus of the event. The dead person is, okay? For an awards banquet, why the award citation, as it's called, why the person is being given an award is not the important part of the event. It's the presentation of the award and acknowledging the actions of the person being awarded. That's the most important. With a ceremonial introductory speech, your job is to get up there, talk to the people about who it is, and then get out. Okay? People are not there in almost every instance for a ceremonial address. The center of attention is not the speaker. It's somebody else. Okay? We will be watching a couple of funereal addresses during this class, just so you can see what those look like. But a ceremonial introductory speech is very specific. It goes through a very specific format. You start off. We're going to work on the premise that you're going to be introduced by someone. I always put this in here. It seems stupid when you're doing it in your living room, but we're doing it anyway. Okay? First thing is, you acknowledge the master of ceremonies. Whoever brings you up. It says, now to introduce our speaker, here's Vic McInnes. So you will get up, and in your speech, you will say, thanks, Bob. Thanks, Dave. Whoever you want to have introduced you. Okay? That's real simple. But why do you do it? Because if you don't do it, it's going to look weird. People are going to say, well, are Bob and Steve not talking to each other these days? If you just get up there and someone says, and now coming to the floor to introduce our guest speaker, Vic McInnes. And I get up there and don't say something, it looks weird, and it's going to distract from your speech. So the first thing we do is we acknowledge the master of ceremonies. Okay? Then with a ceremonial introductory speech, we need to do three things. We need to talk about three things. First of all, we need to talk about the speaker's qualifications. The speaker's qualifications. Now, not about their entire life. The speaker's qualification has to be related to the topic. Most everybody, all of you will know who Bo Jackson is. Bo Jackson went to Auburn University, won the Heisman Trophy, played a couple of years for the Raiders in the NFL, played for the White Sox, played for the Royals in Major League Baseball, was going to be one of the greatest athletes of the 20th century, but had a career-ending injury fairly early on. Now, all of that has absolutely nothing to do with the fact if Bo Jackson is coming here to talk to you about entrepreneurship. Bo Jackson has built a business empire in Chicago and in Illinois. Okay? He is an incredibly wealthy man, not because he built up a ton of money from baseball and football, but because after he got out, he started banks. He started new companies. So if you're going to have Bo Jackson come in and talk about how to start a new company or entrepreneurship, you're not going to talk about his Heisman Trophy very much. You may acknowledge that, but you're going to have to go into details about what businesses he started and how successful he's been. If you want to talk, if LeBron James is coming in to talk about media companies and how to run a media company, I don't care how many times he's been in the All-Star game. It doesn't make any difference. I need to know what kind of media companies he's running. Okay? You have to focus the qualifications. This is one of the two major mistakes that students make at Cost of Points in this speech. They give us a ton of stuff about why the person is famous, but they don't tell us anything about what they're going to, how their qualifications relate to what they're going to be talking about. Okay? Second thing you have to tell us. The topic of the speech. What is the speaker going to be talking about? Okay, that's fairly simple. And in the real world, you would go over to them before you. In the real world, hopefully you would get a chance to, pick up the phone. Hey, listen, Vic, would you be okay introducing our speaker? Sure. Have you got his phone number so I can talk to him? Usually when I get invited to give a speech somewhere, I send along, I have a one-page biography I've had ever since, we had to have those when I was working for the government. So I just mail them a copy of that. And usually it gets read word for word, which I hate. If you don't have that, you can always probably research the person online, get their qualifications, and call them up and say, hey, what are you going to be talking about today? Okay? Last thing. Relatability. Answering the simple question, why do we care about what this guy's talking about? Okay? Today, Albert Einstein is going to be talking to you about relativity. And as math majors, we all are interested in his theories. Okay? Stephen Hawking will be here today to talk about the nature of time. And as people who are involved in the time continuum, we need to listen to his speech. It doesn't really have to be, airtight. Now, for your audience, for your speech, you can say whatever you want to. You can be addressing a Star Trek convention, and William Shatner is going to come up and give a speech. You can be addressing a group of mathematicians. And I don't know any mathematicians to fill in the rest of that sentence. The only other mathematician I know is my daughter, and I don't think she'd want me to invite her to speak. Okay? But you have to have these three parts, and you need to make them explicit. Most of us know Bo Jackson as a Heisman Trophy winning football player and a professional football player and baseball player. But what you may not know is his 30 years of experience as an entrepreneur. And then you tell us about his business successes. Today, Mr. Jackson is going to be talking to us about how we all here in Aiken County can be engaged in entrepreneurship, which is something we should all be listening to and are all going to want to listen to because it's going to help us be more successful in our professional careers. Okay? You need to be very explicit in queuing that stuff up. Second biggest mistake people make is they think topic and relatability, well, that's fairly obvious. I don't have to say them. No, to get the points, and we're going to go over the rubric next week. To get the points, you need to say them out loud. And you need to introduce them explicitly. The fifth thing you have to do is bring on the speaker. Okay? Bring on the speaker. And now, without any further ado, William Shack. So finally, it is my pleasure to introduce Vincent Bo Jackson. Okay? I'm going to talk to you more about the grading and what's required, and there'll be an announcement coming out about what's required. But I want you to go ahead now and start thinking about who you're going to do your speech on. Okay? Last thing, the third biggest problem. Problem number one. Speaker qualifications aren't related to the topic. Problem number two. Topic and relatability are assumed and not explicitly stated. Problem number three. The speaker gets up and just gives us a biographical sketch. They just basically read their Wikipedia entry. Okay? That's not what this is about. I don't care to hear every detail of someone's life. The only details of their lives I need to know is the details related to the topic. One last thing before I throw something else at you. These can go in any order. These three in the middle can go in any order. I misspelled acknowledge. Okay? You can go with relatability first, and then give the topic and its qualifications. I usually like to go with relatability right before I bring on the speaker. Okay? But you can do them in any order. All right, last thing. Picking your subject. Here's the requirement for who you're going to be introducing. Real person, living or dead, no fictional characters. Number two, no athletes, no religious figures, no politicians. Okay? No athletes, no religious figures, no politicians. Now, and here's why I make put those requirements. I say no athletes because if you're going to introduce, inevitably when we introduce an athlete as an athlete who is here to talk to you about athletics, it becomes a horrible recitation of statistics that lasts 3 minutes and just does not go well. It doesn't give you an opportunity to learn this specific type of speech. Okay? No religious figures, because inevitably that winds up with people proselytizing and saying he's a great man of the Lord and he's brought souls to whatever your religious belief is. And that's just not going to happen. And no politicians should be fairly obvious to everybody. I had someone last semester try to sneak in one, and it did not go well for them. So don't try. Now, many people in our world have multiple aspects to their professional careers and their personal endeavors. Prime example, Ben Carson. Okay, if you want to get up and introduce Ben Carson as a man of faith, that's a problem. If you want to introduce Ben Carson as the former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, that's a problem. If you want to introduce Ben Carson as an outstanding neurosurgeon, that's perfectly okay. Okay? If you want to introduce Martin Luther King as a leader of the civil rights struggle, that's perfectly fine. If you wanted to introduce Martin Luther King as the senior pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, we're going to have an issue. Okay? If you have any questions, what do I tell you to do all the time? Send me an email and we'll discuss it. Should be fairly clear. And please, 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 please do not. And there's going to be a requirement that's going to help us make sure this doesn't happen. But I have had students in the past say, I want to introduce my father. They didn't tell me their father is the senior pastor at Bethel AME's, it was whatever church, and it went wrong. Okay? And there was problems. And yeah, like I said, last semester somebody thought they were going to be cute and introduced some obscure guy from out in the middle of nowhere who happened to be a QAnon politician, and that just went bad. Okay? So start thinking of who you want to do your ceremonial introductory speech about, and I will be posting fairly soon in the announcements what your requirements are going to be. From this point forward, for all speeches, you're going to have to do 2 postings in discussion boards. Okay? For this one, you're going to have to post the name of the person you're going to be introducing and 1 sentence about them so we know who they are. That's the first post. The second post that you'll do as a reply to that post will just be the link to your speech. And we'll cover all of that very, very soon. Okay? All right. Questions about ceremonial introductory speeches? Feel free to email me. The next thing we want to talk about is outlining. Now, outlining is the place where speeches begin to go wrong. Not because outlining is bad, but because people think, well, I don't need it. I'll just get up and talk. And they don't do good outlines. I don't prejudge a speech, but when I get an outline that is really not a very good outline, I know that it's not good. I mean, if I get an outline that's just some random thoughts thrown on a page, I'm going to get a speech that's random thoughts thrown at an audience. And that's not a good speech. Okay? So today we're going to talk about outlining. So the main reason you outline is it allows you to visualize your speech. Now, as we go through the process that we talked about of identifying your topic, we're going to talk about gathering evidence next week, okay? Well, as we go through that process, when you begin to get all that stuff done, you begin to think, okay, now I need to start getting all my stuff down on paper. And you may think you've got a great speech, but then you realize your first main point is only like barely a quarter of a page, and your second main point is a page and a half of your outline. Your speech is not balanced. It allows you to visually see the structure of your speech, which allows you to adjust and adapt. Okay? It allows you to test the speech's scope. Are you covering too much information? Do you change purposes in the middle of the speech? Is your speech, is the topic being covered concisely and effectively? It allows you to test the logical relation of your main points. From this point forward, if you see MP, that means main points, not military police or member of parliament. It allows you to test the logical relation of the main points. And again, in a lecture coming up, we're going to talk about how we develop our main points. Do you start talking chronologically and then shift to spatial? Okay. Do you start talking cause and effect and then shift to a narrative? Okay. It allows you to test your supporting ideas. It allows you to test your supporting ideas. Say you've got 3 main points and all your evidence is in your third main point. You need to rethink about where your evidence is being deployed. And we're going to talk about how you do that when we actually start submitting outlines. I'll go ahead and tell you now. Whenever I put evidence in a speech, I highlight it in red so that I can just glance at it and see where the evidence is. Okay? It allows you to test the balance and proportionality. It's very easy to tell. Look at your outline. Do all 3 of your main points take up about the same amount of space on the page? Like I said, if your first main point and your third main point are an inch, and your second main point is 2.5 pages, and I've seen outlines like that, you've got a problem. You've got a balance problem and you need to fix it. Okay? And finally, it will assist in developing your notes. And in developing your notes, I'm going to speak to this very clearly and I'm going to say it very succinctly because your textbook says something different. Anybody reading the textbook, you should. There's going to be questions on the final I'm not covering in lectures. Okay? But here's something the textbook says to write, try writing out your speech in sentence format when you're doing your outline. Don't ever do that. That is a horrendous mistake. It's one thing in this textbook that I have a real objection to. Okay? Because once you start writing things out, you will start trying to read them when you're giving your speech. And I will bring in, I will scan set of note cards for you guys and show you what they look like where somebody had typed their entire speech in 5-point font and then printed it and taped it to their 2 note cards. And they got up there and they were standing there the whole time like this and they couldn't understand why they got a horrible grade on the speech. Okay? So do not write your outline in full sentences. You need memory. You should be familiar enough with your topic to talk on it without notes. The notes help keep you structured and organized, which you derive from your outline. Okay? So let's look at what an outline is going to look like. And this is also going to talk to you about how we structure your speeches, your informative, your problem solution, and your persuasive speech. How far over can I come here and see? Okay, we're going to you learn outlining in English. Okay? Just going to have you put some things in an outline format here. So Roman numeral 1 is going to be your introduction. You guys going to be able to see that? This is always a great shot at me when I'm trying to look at that. Oh, your introduction. Okay? Just said Roman numeral 1. Intro. That's fine. You've accomplished your task. Now, 1A is going to be one thing and one thing only. It is the only thing about this entire speech that is in a fixed position. Your 1A is going to be your attention device. Okay, so let's talk about attention devices for a minute. Everybody has their own problems. Probably most of y'all, several of y'all right now are watching this on your phone or on your tablet or on your computer, and you're also staring at your checkbook that's sitting over there because you know your bank statement didn't balance this month. Okay? Everybody comes in with their own issues. When you get up to start a speech in the real world where they're people, okay, they're going to be talking to each other. They're going to be drinking their coffee. You need to do something to get them to listen to you. You need to get their attention. So you have an attention device. Something that's going to make them sit in their little world go, what did they say? and tune in to you. Okay, a good attention device is a startling statement. Something like, by the end of this year, 3 of you people in this room, statistically, 3 of the people in this room will be dead. I mean, what? 3 people in this room are going to die? This year in Aiken County, 27 people will die in traffic accidents. That's the same number of people sitting in this room right now. That's a startling statement. A good quote, delivered effectively. Okay? You can't just get up there and say, if I'd known I was going to live this long, I'd taken better care of myself. This quote from Mickey, okay? You have to go, if I had known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. That quote from the great Baseball Hall of Famer Mickey Mantle, okay? You have to deliver it like that. It has to draw people in. All right? 2 things. Another one that you're not going to use in this class. You will not use it in this class because it's lazy. You can open with a question. 2 reasons you don't do it in this class. Number 1, it's lazy. Number 2, in the real world, if you open with a question, somebody in the audience is liable to yell at you what the answer is, and then you're screwed. Because now they're paying attention to the guy in the back corner. They're not listening to you. And the other reason, so you have to know how to ask a rhetorical question and to get through it and get into the body of your speech really quickly. Second of all, it's just lazy. The first semester I was teaching here at Aiken Tech, I was an adjunct instructor. I had 3 classes, and I did not have that rule. Third speech, the persuasive speech, I think I had 68 students. 54 of them got up and started with a question. And one of them, I'm not kidding, this is a quote, have you ever wondered about rocks? Okay, so I say no more questions. You always, 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 always start the speech with your attention device. Your attention device is going to be the first words out of your mouth when you're standing in front of an audience. And you will be graded in this class on your attention device. So you will, if you stand up there and the first thing you say is, hey, that's a horrible attention device, you get 0 points for it. I'm Jack Smith. That's a horrible attention device, you will get no points for it. That's not anything other than you trying to burn off a little of energy. It's actually, studies have shown, an anti-attention device. If you get up there and go, hey, good morning, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. People actually will tune you out because they're going like, oh, yeah, I haven't started yet. I can go back to whatever I was doing. Now, for your ceremonial introductory speech, because you're part of a bigger program, you won't have an attention device. That will be taken care of by the person introducing you. But in every other speech, the first thing out of your mouth better be a joke, better be a startling story, a startling statistic. And with statistics, you have to develop. Last year in the United States, we euthanized 2 million dogs and cats. No, it has to be last year in the United States, we euthanized 2 million. Let me repeat that. 2 million dogs and cats. Now, I have no idea if that's the correct figure, but it was. I delivered it dramatically. The next 3 parts of the introduction. Okay, yeah, 2 other things. An attention device suitable to the topic and it has to build your ethos. Remember, we've talked about ethos before. Your personal credibility. But personal credibility is a lot longer than ethos, so I write ethos. Okay. Best attention device in history. Yeah! Everybody's going to be listening to you. I just scared the crap out of some people. Some people just threw their headphones across the wall. Their earbuds flying all over Aiken County, South Carolina right now. Okay? But if you come in and go, ah! Today I'm going to talk to you about our modern banking system. People are going to be pissed. Now, I had a student, was the most low-key guy I've ever had in a class. Super mellow, chillest guy you're ever going to meet. Got up to give his informative speech and sat there and got up there and stood very still for a minute and just went, ah! That's the reaction I have when I go to a scary movie. And today I will be talking to you about scary movie. It was perfect. Class was into it 150% after that. He got huge marks from me, lots of props from me on having an outstanding attention device. Okay? I also knew a guy that got up in front of a group, his attention device, and this was not in a class, this was a guy that was asked to come and speak, got up and told a misogynistic joke. Didn't understand why people started getting up and walking out before he ever got to his statement of purpose. Okay? So it has to be appropriate for your topic. And again, I've seen a lot of people try to come in and open with a joke and then start talking about, like cancer or Parkinson's disease. And it's just weird. So your attention device has to be appropriate to the topic. And it has to build your personal ethos. Okay? Next thing is going to be your statement of purpose. Preview of your main points. And your qualifications. I say those all at once because those can go in any order that you see fit. Okay? You can do your qualifications, statement of purpose, preview your main points. I don't care. It's just they have to be in there. Here's the way I do it. I usually do my qualifications. And just before I start my first main point, I preview my main points. There's two reasons I do that. First of all, I want my preview to be right before I launch into my main points so that I can say I'm going to have 3 main points today. The first is going to be the fish population survey of the Clark Hill Reservoir in 1985. My second main point is going to be the fish population survey from 2012. And then my third main point is going to be what caused the drop in fish population. So my first main point, and I'm right back into something I just talked about, so everybody knows I'm transitioning. The second thing is the major problem that people have in the introduction of the speech is they merge their statement of purpose and their main points. And they say, today I'm going to be talking to you about the fish, getting together an outline in my head, okay, and I'm doing this on the fly. Clark Hill Reservoir brings in $26 million into the CSRA's economy for fishing, swimming, and other leisure activities. $26 million. Clearly, that's a big impact on our local economy. Today, I want to talk to you about the problem with the fish populations from 1985, 2015, and what's causing the problems. Okay, they merged their main point, their statement of purpose, and their preview of the main point. Okay, everybody see how that happened? Would be better to say, today I'm going to talk to you about a problem with the Clark Hill Reservoir, the declining fish population. Now, I've been studying the fish population in Clark Hill Reservoir for a while, so I'm competent to talk to you about it. I'm going to talk about 3 main things today. Okay? Now, your qualifications for these speeches. Just say I've been doing research. If it is something you just sort of picked up and you sort of ran with, if it's something you're knowledgeable about, tell us your qualifications. Okay? But if it's just a topic you pick, like today I'm going to talk to you about nuclear fusion. I've been doing research on this topic. Do not diminish your qualifications. I've been doing research on this topic for a whole 2 days. No, that diminishes your qualifications. Just say, I've been doing research. If somebody wants to ask you later on, hey, how long have you been researching this topic? Be honest. I started looking at it 2 days ago. But don't volunteer information to discredit yourself. Okay? Does everybody understand that? So when you give your qualifications, make sure you don't disqualify yourself by saying your qualifications aren't valid. And again, the one thing that really frustrates me very much is when someone gives a speech, they'll say, so I've been researching this topic, so I guess I'm qualified. If you have to guess if you're qualified, please leave and get somebody who knows. Okay? So remember, introduction, your attention device has to go first. First words out of your mouth are the attention device. Not hello, not hey, not your name, not I'm glad to be here. It's your attention device. You can give your name down here in your qualifications. The attention device is first. It has to be suitable to the topic. It has to build your ethos. And then after you do that, you will have a statement of purpose, statement of your qualifications, and a preview of your main points. And those can go in any order that you like. I personally prefer to put my qualifications between my statement of purpose and my preview of my main points, just so I keep them separate. Okay? Then we're going to transition to the first main point. You will need to explicitly transition verbally and non-verbally. I'm going to wind up my preview of my main points okay? And then we're going to discuss what's caused the drop in that population. Now, my first main point, okay? Did you notice I took a little pause? I broke my vocal rhythm and rate, changed it. People will notice that. And then I gestured my first main point. And then I explicitly said my first main point. Okay? It's that simple. A couple of subpoints. SP is subpoint. Then you're going to have that. So that was the result of the 1988 fish population survey. Now for my second main point, we're going to discuss the 2012 fish population survey. Okay? So that's going to be Roman numeral 3. Your second main point. Now I am going to stop putting main points there. The question that always comes up and that somebody always asks, and I always say this during this lecture, but somebody's still going to ask, how many main points do I need? You need at least 2. But do you need 3? That's up to you and how your speech is organized. Do you need 4? 4 is getting a little much for a 4 to 6 minute speech. Do you need 5? If you've got 5 main points, you probably need to reorganize your speech. That's one of those scope and balance issues. Okay? So you could have a third main point, a fourth main point, whatever's going to fit your speech and your delivery. Okay? And when you come to me and ask, how many main points should I have? I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to say as many as you need. And when you submit an outline that has 6 main points in a 4 to 6 minute speech, then I will go, you've got too many main points. You need to reevaluate. Okay? Then we're going to transition into our conclusion. Okay? And you're going to do that real simple. So let's wrap this up. Or, my favorite, so in conclusion, again, a verbal statement that you're moving to another part of the speech, and a nonverbal cue, a pause. You should pause between every main point and when you transition into your conclusion. Your conclusion is going to have 3 parts. And there's a general format in the way they go that's generally accepted, although all of these can be shifted around. You're going to review your purpose. You're going to review your main points. And then you're going to give a closing statement. Okay, you've already sort of done a closing statement and review your main points in your 2-minute speech. Okay. In persuasive speeches, the closing statement is a very specific thing called a call to action, and we're going to discuss that later on. But what you need to do is you need to say, okay, today I've talked to you about okay, give me a second, got to put this together. Today I've talked to you about the fish population, about the impacts of the declining fish populations in Clark Hill Reservoir. We talked about the 1988 fish population survey. We've talked about the 2012 fish population survey. And we've talked about some of the causes of the decline in the fish population over the last 30 years. And now you're aware of the potential threat to a vital economic resource here in the CSRA. Okay? Don't say, I hope you're aware. Okay? I have hopefully told you. Don't say any of that. Okay? You have to, and it's going to become really important during your persuasive speech. All of this, you need to clean all the weasel words out of your, probably, I think you're going to understand where you'll get rid of all of that. You need to be firm. Your language needs to be considered, and it needs to be strong language. Okay? And I will tell you this, and again, I've had people yell at me about this, but I can prove it, and I can give you the research to back it up. The females in the ladies, the women, the girls in the class have got to be more aware of this than the gentlemen are. Okay? Because in our culture, a man who comes in and says, when I'm done with this talk, this is what you're going to believe. We find that guy to be strong, and we find that guy to be attractive. A lady comes in and says, after this talk, you're going to know that I'm absolutely right. We find her pushy and bitchy, to be honest. And there's a ton of research out there. And so female speakers have a tendency to pull back and use qualifiers and paralinguistics to discount their own qualifications. And we need you to get rid of all of that. It happens with guys too. But there is a ton of research out there that says statistically, women are more likely to use self-qualifying language than a man will. And I got a great speech. I don't know if I'll assign it to you guys for Rachel Traster, who's a writer, who goes into in detail a lot of that, how a woman's language has to be different than a man's, and the way they can employ language is different. So what I'm telling you guys is, this is not, when you get up in front to give a public speech, it is not a time for self-doubt. Oh, you may be doubting the heck out of yourself inside, but you can't let your language expose that. Okay? All right. That's outlining. You do not have to do an outline for your ceremonial introductory speech, okay? But you will have to do an outline, and it will have to be turned in a couple of days. We'll go over all of that further on down the road, okay? So today, ceremonial introductory speeches or ceremonial speeches, but we went over the introductory speech specifically, and then we went over outline. All right? This is the format, and yes, you will be graded on format. So if you need to find, I will step over here out of the shot so that you have several seconds to hit pause so that you can write that down or take a picture of it or get a screenshot so that you can have that handy, because you will be graded for format. Because if I get in your outlines for your informative, persuasive, and problem solution speech are worth 20 points each, and in sum total, that's an entire letter grade. Okay? If someone else turns in a English paper that they did for ENG 101 or 132 and says that's their outline, you get zeros for that. I expect to see your outline in this format and not incomplete sentences. Okay? Woo! Okay. Good job, guys. It is raining. I'm so glad, because with the glare I get off these lights on this whiteboard, I was really worried because there's a lot up here that you we're going to be able to see it. But I'm probably going to use this lecture from now on, because there is no glare on that board, because the weather sucks outside today. Okay, it is pouring down rain out there. You guys don't care. I've been up here 47 minutes and you just want me to get out of the way. All right, that's all I got for today. If you have any questions, again, we can meet on campus. We can meet over Zoom. You can send me an email. All right, send me an email so we can set up an appointment for Zoom. You got to send me an email anyway. Okay, but reach out to me. I am here to help you through this process. So communicate with me, and I will communicate right back. All right, that's it for today. Everybody stay safe, and we will be in touch.